Hello, my name is Charlotte Wells and this is my 2.3 Fatigue and Recovery PowerPoint presentation. Fatigue refers to being overly tired due to various factors. It often inhibits you from completing certain tasks. Fatigue is context-specific, which shows that in different contexts it can have different meanings. Three of these are the reduction in force, production, or power, the inability to produce force required, therefore the task fails, delay the point of fatigue. For example, the more an athlete trains, the longer their muscles can work before becoming fatigued. There are 4 types of fatigue. These are local, general, chronic, and psychological. Local fatigue is in specific muscles, usually caused by a failure of a motor nerve to transmit nerve impulses to the muscle and the reduced ability of the muscle fiber to contract. General fatigue is caused post-training, as your body has been required to work all of its muscles for an extended period of time. This also includes cardiorespiratory fatigue. Chronic fatigue is caused by a weakened immune system due to an infection or illness. It is a long-term illness, often lasting for years. Psychological fatigue is mental toughness, often causing people to become overworked and give up. Athletes often face local and general fatigue in their bodies due to exhaustive training. During the end of a game, a football player may struggle to kick a ball as accurately because their bodies become fatigued and lose the ability to produce as much power and force. During maximum intensity and short durational activities, the ATP PC system is in full use. The body has enough ATP and phosphocreatine to last for 10 seconds of maximal intensity exercise. This creatine phosphate is synthesized in the liver and transported to the skeletal muscles during storage until it turns ADP into ATP. Once this storage is used up, the body switches to glycogen until it becomes fatigued. The body is working off of molecules already stored in the muscles during maximum intensity and short durational activities, therefore not fatiguing it. However, it does deplete at a fast rate. These first 10 seconds of exercise are the best as far as the body's performance. To be able to perform at their maximum, athletes require a good recovery ratio. This means that after a short 10-second bout of exercise, athletes have the required amount of time to recover their ATP PC stores before they complete their activity again. If they try to perform a second time without recovering for long enough, their body will be too fatigued and they won't be able to exercise to their full potential. This is like during the Olympics when shot putters throw their shot put, they have a rest between each trial. Some athletes choose to take phosphocreatine supplements in order to boost their performance. Taking the supplements increases the PC stores found in your muscles, allowing for it to be readily available during exercise. This improves high-intensity exercise performance, as athletes can work at a higher intensity for a longer period of time before they run out of ATP. Taking these supplements can also improve strength, resistance to fatigue, and recovery. In the graph on the left, it can be seen that when an athlete is at rest, their PC stores are high. When they begin exercising, these stores deplete dramatically, but recover when in recovery. They recover at a slower pace and they lose the stores. In the graph on the left, it can be seen that an experiment conducted by Casey et al. 1996 proved that taking a phosphocreatine supplement improved an athlete's total work. The striped bars show the control group, and the black bars show those who had taken the supplements during both bouts of exercise. The group that had taken the supplements were able to work harder than the group that hadn't. From the graph, we can see that the athletes hadn't been given enough time to recover their PC stores before exercising again in the second bout, hence them being able to work at a lower power. Even with these supplements, this happened, suggesting that the creatine didn't help to replenish stores, only allowed the body to hold more. This study proved that taking these phosphocreatine supplements allows athletes to perform better during maximum intensity exercises, although fatigue and reduction in power will still occur. After ATP and PC stores have run out, the body is required to start using stores of glucose. At this point, the body is still working anaerobically, but it switches to a more moderate intensity and moderate duration. The body has between 15 to 20 grams of glucose in its bloodstream and around 345 grams of glycogen in the liver. When the blood sugar levels begin to decrease, the liver converts stores of glycogen into glucose. Glucose stores last 2 to 3 minutes, but glycogen stores can last for around 2 hours. Running out of glycogen is known as hitting the wall. It is when athletes can no longer carry on muscle contractions and movements. Lactic acid is the main waste product of this anaerobic exercise. There is always a small amount in the blood, and during the exercise period, it increases greatly. This then makes the blood more acidic and lowers the pH, which affects the muscle function. Onset blood lactate accumulation is the point at where blood lactate begins to build up in the muscles. That can be seen in the featured graph. The point of OBLA depends on the level of training an athlete has had and lies between 2 to 4 millimoles. The grey shaded area represents the lactic threshold. This is where the systems switch from aerobic to anaerobic. The lactate threshold is the maximal effort or intensity that an athlete can maintain for an extended period of time, with little or no increase in lactate in the blood. This dramatic increase of lactic acid causes the muscles to fatigue and suffer, causing the athlete to slow down or decrease the intensity they're working at. Soda loading and glucose ingesting are a way of enhancing an athlete's performance. Some athletes choose to ingest glucose before an event in order to up their stores. A study done by Bethesda 1985 was to examine the effects of glucose ingestion before exercise on liver glucose output and muscle glucose uptake during exercise. 2 groups of male athletes took the glucose or a placebo. In summary, it was found that the pre-exercise glucose ingestion resulted in increased muscle glucose uptake and reduced liver glucose output during exercise. Some athletes seek to improve buffering capacity by soda loading, which involves drinking sodium bicarbonate several minutes before an event. While performance may improve, side effects include vomiting and diarrhea. Studies in the early 1980s suggested that ingestion of sodium bicarbonate could be effective in improving short-term exercise performance. For example, Wilkes et al. 1983 compared the effects of sodium bicarbonate and control treatments in 800-meter runners. The bicarbonate was given over a 2-hour period. Average performance was 2% faster in the bicarbonate condition than in the control or placebo conditions. Professional athletes should not use soda loading as an effective method of boosting their ability due to the doping rule, which states that it could artificially enhance their performance. The graph on the screen shows how glucose ingestion affects the blood. After a meal has been eaten that contains 60 grams of carbohydrates, the blood glucose levels spike upwards and then slowly decrease as time moves on, and the glucose is used up during muscle contractions. This happens 3 times throughout the day after the big meals. When smaller snacks of 30 grams of carbohydrates are eaten, the blood glucose spikes, but not as high. If the person was to take part in some exercise, then these blood glucose levels would drop off far more dramatically, as it would be used up far faster. This diagram also suggests why we have far more energy after we've eaten a meal. Acidosis occurs when blood pH falls below 7.35, indicating an increase in hydrogen ion concentration. It is caused by an overproduction of acid that builds up in the blood or an excessive loss of bicarbonate from the blood. Alkalosis occurs when blood pH rises above 7.45, indicating a reduction in hydrogen ion concentration. Alkalosis occurs when your body has too many bases. It can occur due to decreased blood levels of carbon dioxide, which is an acid. It can also occur due to increased blood levels of bicarbonate, which is a base. A study by Cairns in 2006 found that experiments on isolated skeletal muscles show that acidosis has a very small negative effect on the muscles, or it may even improve muscle performance during high-intensity exercise. However, alkalosis through sodium bicarbonate consumption can improve exercise performance in events lasting 1 to 10 minutes. Cairns hypothesizes that while acidosis has little detrimental effect, or may even improve skeletal muscle performance in isolated muscle Severe blood plasma acidosis may impair performance by causing a reduced central nervous system drive to muscle. During submaximal exercise, the body is using its aerobic energy system due to the long duration of the activity. The aerobic system is long and complex. Part of it is the Krebs cycle, which is shown in a diagram on the left. This type of exercise results in muscle glycogen being used up. The stores our body holds last up to around 2 to 3 hours worth of glycogen in the liver. This diagram on the right shows how glycogen in the body depletes over the course of 3 hours of exercise. Athletes that compete in events such as marathons need good stores of glycogen in their body in order to perform at their best for the entire event without tiring. Depending on the level of intensity the exercise being performed is at, depends on what fuel source is being burned. During higher intensity and lower durational activities, the more carbohydrates are burned as the immediate fuel. This is demonstrated on the graph as the blue line. As the levels of intensity move from low to moderate to high, the levels of carbohydrates being burned as fuel increases. This is because you aren't taking in enough oxygen to burn fat, so your body turns to carbs for energy. When you work out at a high intensity, you burn more calories overall. These carbohydrates come from the stores in your liver and muscles as glycogen. During lower intensity exercises, the body burns fat as its fuel source. This is shown as the red line on the diagram. It decreases slowly as you move through the different intensities of exercise. There is a lot more potential energy stored in fat. This is because fats are broken down in the form of triglycerides, much slower than carbs, so they can be used over a longer period of time. Athletes such as marathon runners may wish to measure their RER when they are training, as this tells them the ratio between the amount of carbon dioxide produced in metabolism and oxygen used. It helps to indicate whether a person is burning fats or carbohydrates. If the RER is 7.0, then the carbs being burned are 100%. Scrap that. If the RER is 7.0, then the carbs being burnt is 0%, but 100% of the fuel being burnt is fat. This will be very useful for a marathon runner who needs to save their glycogen. When the RER is 1, then 100% of the fuel being burnt is carbohydrates, and none of it is fat. This would only be good for sprinters and high-intensity athletes, as glycogen stores will be being used up very quickly. During exercise, the body produces different waste products in order to cope. One of the main types of waste products is heat. Our body loses a lot of water during exercise due to sweating. Sweating is our body's way of cooling itself down. However, it involves our blood vessels vasodilating so that at the skin surface we can increase heat loss. Due to blood vessels needing to dilate, more blood is sent to the skin surface rather than the working skeletal muscles. This can be considered a big waste of the blood when our muscles could be working harder to support us. Only 20% of the oxygen consumption during exercise is converted into muscle contraction, whereas 80% ends up as heat. This also causes extra strain on the body if it is having to work hard on a hot day during a long endurance activity. The worst type of weather for an athlete to compete in is that of a high humidity, because the body is unable to sweat properly. This can, in extreme cases, lead to a significant increase in the body's core temperature and lead to hypothermia, which causes fatigue and sometimes death. It was found that hypothermia impairs the performance of both sprint, found by Drust et al. 2005, and endurance, found by Gonzalo Alonso et al. 1999. Another waste product is carbon dioxide. The muscles produce this after they have taken in the oxygen that they need. The CO2 is carried in the blood top the lungs, where it passes into the alveoli and is then expelled from the body. When carried in the blood, carbon dioxide combines with water, producing carbonic acid. This carbonic acid is further broken down into bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. These hydrogen ions then contribute to the blood's increased acidity.